It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the two movies of May 20th, 2005. And I say only two movies, but let's be honest, there's only one real big movie on this show that we really need to talk about here. And then there's an interesting, not really sequel to the recent Exorcist: The Beginning, but a different kind of movie compared to Exorcist: The Beginning. But we'll get to that one a little bit. But before we do that, let's of course talk about the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is without a doubt Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Yep, the movie where they got it right for the most part, about, let's say maybe 95% of the movie, but we'll get to that 5% in a little bit. But let's talk about Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, the end of the prequel trilogy that began with The Phantom Menace and then was continued with Attack of the Clones. And now we have the film that's going to lead into Star Wars Episode 1, Episode 4, A New Hope. And in this movie, the film begins 3 years after the onset of the Clone Wars. The Jedi Knights have spread across the galaxy, leading a massive war against the Separatists. The Jedi Council dispatches Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi to eliminate the notorious General Grievous, leader of the Separatist Army. Meanwhile, Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker grows close to Palpatine, the Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Republic, and unknown to the public, a Sith Lord known as Darth Sidious. Their deepening friendship threatens the Jedi Order, the Republic, and Anakin himself, and of course, you see in the trailer, Anakin, of course, will eventually become the one known as Darth Vader. So how does one describe a movie like Revenge of the Sith? Well, like I said, for one thing, it's easily the best of the three prequels George Lucas did. It still has a ton of problems, but yeah. This is the one that I think is the best overall of the prequel trilogy, bar none. This is the only prequel that actually is watchable for a good chunk of the running time, and it does serve as a good lead-up to the events that will lead into A New Hope. The transition of Anakin throughout the movie is surprisingly well done. That final image of him becoming Darth Vader tied down is incredibly impressive. And just, everything that they were building up to that moment, you really thought that they were going to stick the landing big time and have this incredible movie all the way through. And then this ruins it. Just why? You were this close. You were absolutely this close to the finish line. And then you blew it. You blew it big time, and while this isn't a killer that makes the entire movie unbearable, what happens after that scene and what happens around that scene really takes a lot of the greatness that was in the that was in 95% of the movie beforehand, because, I'm sorry, that's a terrible scene, that way to end that scene. You've got this incredible scene where Anakin, the Anakin that we knew beforehand is gone, and now it's Darth Vader. He's got the helmet on. That slow rise from him coming up on there with his hands up in the there, and it's just like you hear the breathing for the first time. And George Lucas just couldn't let that go. No. He couldn't stop insulting his audience even more, but he had to give us one more stupid-ass cliche in the histories of movies, and that one scene turned Darth Vader into such a pussy. Like, one of the most badass villains in the history of cinema. Like, it's amazing how that just ruins the entire movie. The entire end of nearly ruins the entire end of the movie is what I should be saying. Because right after that, it feels like there's a cliff they just go through cliff notes. Like, we got to set everything up for the next movie. Let's put Luke on this planet here. Let's have them build this Death Star. Let's have Obi-Wan talking to somebody about talking to his old master again, Qui-Gon Jinn. They crammed so much stuff in the last 5 minutes, and it feels like they just rushed it. And it's like the complete opposite of what they did with the Lord of the Rings. Like in the way the Lord of the Rings, yeah, there's a ton of endings, but you felt like that was warranted. We didn't think we were going to head back to Middle Earth after the end of Return of the King, before we found out that Hobbit was getting made. But here, it really just felt like they had to cram everything so they could get it all connected to the beginning of A New Hope. But the good news is, Rogue One came out, and Rogue One, I think, is a perfect in-between movie between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, because it does, in a full-length movie, what the end of Revenge of the Sith should do. It made Darth Vader into a badass once again, with that great hallway scene at the end of the movie, which was actually reshoots that I didn't even know about until well after I saw that movie. I thought that was really that was easily the best scene in that movie. And like I said, it made Darth Vader badass again. And of course, it leads into the beginning of A New Hope, where you see Princess Leia for the first time at what she'd eventually become in the beginning of A New Hope. And that movie, to me, is like the perfect in-between film for what the problems with Revenge of the Sith and what leads into A New Hope. I think that's the perfect movie to watch after you watch Revenge of the Sith, because it really does fix a lot of the problems that the last 5 minutes of Revenge of the Sith had, and leads it into the next movie, which is A New Hope. But really, if the movie had just ended with Darth Vader coming up from the thing for the first time and doing the breath, and then it just went straight to the credits, the movie would have been great. I think the movie would have been absolutely perfect all the way through. Would have been one of the best movies of the year. But no, I'm sorry. The rest is that scene in particular just takes a lot of the charm and takes a lot of the fun out of it when you have to just cram everything in the final 5 minutes like that. But look, like I said, the movie isn't terrible by any means. It's still a very good film. A really good film at times, but that last 5 minutes really just felt like it was rushed. It felt like it was unnecessary. They just crammed in way too much stuff in there. If you want my opinion, stop the movie after Darth Vader rises and you hear him breathe for the first time, then go straight to the end credits. You feel like you've watched a great movie overall, and it gets you set up for Rogue One, and then eventually Star Wars A New Hope. I feel like if you watch that last 5 minutes, it takes away a lot of the great stuff that was in the rest of the movie in general. But like I said, none of it really hurts the movie in terms of the overall enjoyment level. It just really takes a great movie and makes it just a good movie in general. And I know Star Wars fans aren't going to like what I have to say, but you know what? You guys still haven't gotten over me saying that Star Wars is better under Disney. 1 like out of 9 dislikes over 1 like, really? Like, but then again, this is the internet we're talking about here. But overall, I do like Revenge of the Sith. I think it still is easily the best of the 3 prequels. A lot of it works. I just wish that last 5 minutes would have been much better. Once Darth Vader says no, it just really takes a lot of the air out of the room. It just takes a great movie and just makes it a very good film. But I feel like it could have been a whole lot greater if he had taken that last 5 minutes out. That's my personal opinion on it. But once again, Star Wars fans are going to let me know right away how they feel about it. But I digress. Let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is our good friend Paul Schrader, Dominion prequel to The Exorcist. His movie, his version of Exorcist the Beginning. So let's see what good old Paul Schrader has to say about this. So Lancaster okay, I'm not going to do that voice throughout the entire video. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look for my Paul Schrader videos on YouTube with Grandpa Simpson typing on the typewriter. Because when Paul Schrader writes on social media, it's comedy gold. But in this movie, Stellan Skarsgård once again plays Lancaster Marin, who's an archaeologist by profession, but an ordained Roman Catholic priest who has lost his faith and abandons his vocation. He is haunted by what he was forced to do in his native Holland during World War II. The church he excavated in northern Kenya dates to the Byzantine period, but this puts its construction hundreds of years before Christianity was introduced to the area. The church was buried to the rooftop in sand, and as its structure is exposed, a madness slowly descends on the camp. The local tribesmen are prepared to go to war and demand that the church be buried. Soon 2 British soldiers are found dead, and their commanding officer, Major Granville, shoots an innocent civilian in cold blood. As fear descends upon everyone in the camp, it becomes apparent that a young disabled boy, Chechi, is possessed by the devil, forcing Marin to re-examine his own beliefs. And this film is it's a very interesting film, to say the least, because it's a movie that, it's very interesting because it was originally intended to be the official prequel to The Exorcist before it was essentially retooled into the Rennie Harlin film that came out the year before, which was not a well-received movie. And, they basically did it because the executives at Morgan Creek feared the film was already completed, but it would be unsuccessful. Not to say The Exorcist the Beginning was a successful film either, but yeah, Exorcist the Beginning may have been the bigger financial hit, but nobody really remembers that movie because it wasn't that good. This is a film that people remember more as a more enjoyable film. I'm not going to say it's a good film or a bad film. It's just a much better film in general because you have a great director in Paul Schrader. And there are some good ideas here, but the movie itself is definitely very, very flawed. It's a film that has a lot of problems to it, but it at least has a better idea of what they were trying to do here, trying to do something that's very different compared to the other Exorcist movies in general. It doesn't work quite as much as I think they wanted it to, but it's a film that I think does work a lot better than The Exorcist: The Beginning prequel did. Like, I feel like this is a film that could have easily been better well received if the film had come out. Like, Morgan Freak saying that this was going to be this would be unsuccessful, but Exorcist: The Beginning would be more successful. Yeah, which I guess they were right. Financially, it was more successful. Critically, not so much. And again, this didn't really do that much better with critics. It has like a 20% more on Rotten Tomatoes than Exorcist: The Beginning did. But then again, Dominion has 30, Beginning had 10%. So that's really not saying a whole lot in general. But it's a good movie. It's a film that okay, I take that back. It's a better film. I won't say it's a good film. It has some good ideas to it, but it suffers from a lot of things. Cheap scares, not a lot of impressive visual effects. I mean, you see it in the trailer. Some of those scenes that are supposed to be terrifying, they're not really all that great in general. But there's a film that's at least trying to do something, at least something different compared to what Exorcist: The Beginning was trying to do. I don't think it worked all the way through. Obviously, it didn't work all the way through, but I give him credit for at least trying to do something different and doing something that could be close to being good. I mean, it is close to being something enjoyable, but it does take it in an area where you really do hope that there was something that was going to be capable of being entertaining or good from it, and it's not quite there, but it isn't bad either. It's just a kind of a mixed bag movie, if you will. A film that's passable, but it's nothing too significant. It's definitely a better movie than Exorcist: The Beginning, but then again, it's really not saying a whole lot. I give him credit for releasing it so we could see what this version was like. And yeah, it's a mixed bag movie. I think it's okay. Nothing too great, nothing too bad either. Just kind of run of the mill. But it certainly is a lot better than what we got with Exorcist: The Beginning. So I'll give it that. Paul Schrader's Dominion prequel to The Exorcist. And so with that said, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. We'll wrap May up on the next episode by looking at Memorial Day weekend 2005 with two new movies, including DreamWorks Animation's latest film, Madagascar, and the star-studded remake of The Longest Yard with Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, Burt Reynolds, and James Cromwell. An R-rated is a PG-13 remake of an R-rated movie. Should be a bad idea, but you might be surprised with what I have to say about it. We'll take a look at both of those movies on tomorrow's show. But until then, thank you so much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the plays on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. And coming up later on tonight, Time About the Movies Flashback takes you back to the weekend before Christmas, 1987, with a lot of movies to look at. Eddie Murphy Raw, Batteries Not Included, Overboard, Leonard Part 6, Broadcast News, Moonstruck, September, The Dead, Ironweed. That's like 9 movies to look at, so we have a lot of films to cover tonight, and that'll be coming up on Time About the Movies Flashback in just a little bit, so stick around for that. We'll be right back.